So we are joined tonight by Daniel Liu, who is the Managing Director for Career Education and Coaching at the McCombs School of Business at University of Texas at Austin. If you haven't heard of McCombs, it is one of the best business schools in the country, and Daniel has really risen through the ranks on their career development front, providing incredible value initially to MBA students, and now focusing his time on both undergraduates and MBA students at the McCombs School of Business. I'm lucky enough to call Daniel a mentor and a friend of mine, and he has helped me with my professional development. He'll give you a lot more of his introduction. I won't steal it from him, but without further ado, I will go ahead and kick it over to Daniel.
Ben, thank you so much. Super grateful to be here tonight and really excited to share this space and this time. Thank you for your time tonight. Really quick, I just, we're all coming from different places and from different parts of the country. I realize, you might just be exhausted, drained from your day. So you're just, webcam off, and I'm okay with that actually. As long as we have engagement, right? And we're gonna find engagement in two key ways tonight. One is through the Zoom chat. So we're gonna practice that, right? First question, right? First way to interact, not a poll, just drop it in the chat. Wanna know where your energy level is at. What energy level are you coming into tonight's session at, right? Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're super energized, you're really excited about this content, you're excited about this opportunity. And just be honest, right? Like if you're in the negatives, I want to see that too, right? Finals, absolutely. 3s, 5, 6, 7, 6, 6. Okay, so we're kind of in the medians between 4s and 6s. All right, chill vibes 4. All right, we texted Delta. I love it. All right, this is super helpful. Now, I would say I'm actually coming in tonight at an 8, and part of that is I've been trying to model better self-care with my teams. I manage a pretty large team at McCombs, and I took some Wellness Wednesday. So I took the afternoon off. Been meaning to take my road bike to the shop. It's been a while since I've done that. So it's getting the full kind of, spring clean so I can start riding again. And that just got me really excited for that. And obviously being here tonight. So thank you for that participation. The other way we're going to participate, I'm going to jump into more in a little bit, but just going to share my screen. Can y'all see my screen? Thumbs up if you can, those of you who are online. Okay, great. Again, if your webcam is off, what I'm looking for from you, right, is some chat, right? So yes, no's, right, et cetera would be helpful. All right, so a little bit about me, background. First off, I'm a girl dad. All right, I got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, Lily Jane and Annie Elizabeth. Lily has actually been to at least one SIGEP conclave. I think Denver would have been her second. I don't think we're going to make it this summer, but she's already got one up on y'all. So if you have not been to conclave yet, you better start hustling. And obviously, just love my kids. Love the ability to watch them grow. Right. So this idea of professional development is what I do for my day job. It's what I do for my all the time job. A little bit about my background. Went to SMU, Texas Upsilon. I was actually the vice president of membership development, was also the BMS scholarship chair. Those are some of the leadership activities and roles that I played within Sigma Phi Epsilon. Wider range of leadership development opportunities. I was so grateful for what SMU offered me. Joined Deloitte Consulting, an incredible place to launch your career. If any of you are looking at consulting for your own career, you're more than welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn, right? Just follow me, add me, and I would love to be able to help coach you and guide you through everything from the case prep to is consulting really a good fit for you. Spent about 6 years at Deloitte. And what I really gained from that in leading large public sector organizations through digital transformation and solving these tough problems was the people human piece of it, right? Because every problem, every technology change always involves people. And what I realized out of that is what I loved about the people side was that human interaction and helping someone. And so I left, right, this wonderful career, right, took a 60% pay cut and joined higher education. Right? I went back to the place that really helped me launch, and I've never looked back. Right, the last 6 years of my career have been all about helping students really think about not just how to get a job, because there are a lot of different ways, a lot of resources out there for that, but really about thinking about what does it take to really design your life journey, right? Some of you may have heard of Designing Your Life. It's a great book. It's a class at Stanford. That resource is a guiding principle for what we teach at McCombs. So again, if you look at the rest of my interests, love cycling, kind of mentioned that a little bit, love volunteering with SIGEP. I think we're going on 12 years of volunteering in different capacities. One of my more active roles right now is I'm the faculty fellow at Texas Alpha, UT Austin. So I work with that chapter a little bit less this year than in years past, but have just enjoyed the different ways I've been able to be a volunteer for our wonderful fraternity. Lastly, I'm somewhat active on Twitter. So if you're a Twitter user, feel free to add me, follow me. Sometimes there's some fraternity related things that I'll reshare. Most of it, again, is around professional development and around food and barbecue. So if you're fans of that. All right, real quick. So my SIGEP experience. Can anyone guess, right? Drop in the chat or jump off mic, right? What do those numbers represent? Any takers? Yeah, at least one taker. I was going to cold call Craig, but he stepped away. A date. Okay, Sebastian, what's the date? What's the meaning?
I do not know, but I'm guessing it is a date.
Yeah. So that's the date I joined, right? So that's the date that I got my bid. What's the second set of numbers, purple numbers? Any clue? My membership number. So there's my SIGEP, right? Certificate right there. Boom. Day I joined, roll number, year I graduated. Close, Connor. If I had a prize, I'd give it to you. Ben's going to give you one instead. That last number is not the year I graduated. I graduated in 08, but 2011 is when Texas Sweep Salon got its first Buck Cup in Arizona, right, in Phoenix. And that was something that I was so proud of, right? So much of the work that I put in as a student leader and then graduated and continued volunteering as a young alum led to that moment. And just so proud of that chapter, right? It's gone through some ups and downs. But again, I think as a volunteer, we get to watch the long-term journey. All right, so we're going to jump in. I really want to start with this because, I'll be honest, before I started prepping for the session, I can't tell you the last time I actually read through our mission statement, right? There's the building balanced leaders part that always sticks in my mind, right? That's always top of mind for me. But I just want to pause for a second, right? And so let's all just take a quick moment. I'm not going to read this out loud, but I'm just going to take a quick second. Everyone just take a moment and read this. Now, obviously, I've highlighted some key parts that resonate with me. And I'm curious, this might have been your first time reading this. Maybe you heard this as part of the spiel. Maybe, you remember it being covered, right, in a previous session. I'm curious, right? Drop in chat, come off mic. What sticks out, right? What's kind of popping for you as you think about the context of our topic tonight, professional development? And if no one goes, Sean Cable is going to get cold called.
I'd probably say to build leadership and interpersonal skills would probably pop out the most to me, just personally.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm gonna keep you on mic for a second. Do you believe that right now in your chapter that you guys effectively offer that type of development?
I say yes. We've been coherently rebuilding it up to a structure that we want to see and to continue forward, definitely.
Awesome. So glad to hear that. Anyone else?
I would say learn to develop healthy lifelong relationships.
Yeah, that's so important right now, right? I will just say, as someone looking back on over a decade career, relationships is everything, right? The relationship is what I rely on to not only keep my team healthy and moving forward in the same direction, right? To have strategy and move forward. But when I have turnover, I need to hire new people. It's the relationships I have outside of my ecosystem, right? That network that I bring in to continue to bring excellent people, excellent talent into my organization. It's relationships that turn into opportunities and programming, right? And partnerships and contracts. And it's just something that you really have to continue developing. And you get such a great chance to do that now, right? So that's such a great one. The emphasis on development. Yeah, there's such an amazing emphasis on development. I never knew this, right? Like, I mean, when I was VP of MD, I was VP of MD because I was obviously passionate about developing others. I just didn't know it was called that. I lost out on presidency by 1 vote, right? And they were like, Daniel, do you want to be VP of MD? And I was like, sure. But when I look back on my entire career, my journey, and where it's landed me now, right? It's actually partly because of the work I did with SIGEP that really helped me excel at Deloitte. And now my job and my role, a lot of the things that I thought about and still think about today absolutely apply, right? I'm thinking now about an undergraduate population in McCombs, about 5,000 undergrad business students. And I'm thinking about what does their 4-year journey look like, and how can I take the rites of passage, right? How can I take the challenges, Sigma, Phi, Epsilon, and build, right, this continuous development? So I'm actually taking what I learned at SIGAP and bringing it into my day job. Pretty cool, right? So here are my thoughts for tonight's session, right? We're gonna keep it snappy. We're gonna move quickly because, again, everyone's time is so precious. So the way this is gonna work is I wanted to first start with this, and if we have alignment on this, it's gonna really help tonight move smoothly. So I spent some time thinking about what would be some good shared goals, right, for us as fellow VPs of MD, right? And this is my commitment to you all. And I hope that our relationship, right, is lifelong and doesn't just end here with this session. I hope that the way that I'm facilitating this tonight will create both a leave behind, something that you can take with you, you can come back to, and again, that we can build a network relationship. I'm gonna let someone else be enterprising. If someone wants to start a Slack group just for VP of MDs, I'm down for that. Invite me, I'll join, I'll contribute, let me know, right? But I think our shared goals for tonight are, number one, to understand the value and importance of professional development. Now, this has already been covered in a previous session, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I am going to add my lens to that. And then secondly, we're going to dive into what I think is a really helpful approach, right? I want you to leave tonight at least thinking about, if not deciding, if you were to integrate career and professional development more into your existing membership development process, which of these 3 directions or approaches would you take, right? Is it easier to align by the challenges, right? Maybe you have already an existing membership development program that's really strong, where the challenge leaders that you have on your team, on your cabinet, on your committee really help kind of provide structure. You're really using the BMP app, for example, and it works really well for you, right? Maybe that's the easiest way to integrate. The other is, if you don't have that strong structure, maybe this is the opportunity to help that structure get stronger. Or maybe you're a chapter where that doesn't really have as deep of a resonance, and it's more about identifying shared interests and career goals, right? If you're a chapter where there's a lot of brothers who are all engineers or all business majors or all law, pre-law, then aligning against those things might make more sense, right? And I think even just this process, this is problem solving, right? This is a critical thinking exercise for you as a leader, right, for the chapter, and thinking about what's the best approach to help the chapter grow and be successful. And then lastly, is it just around shared areas of growth? Are there just common interests? And we'll kind of dive into that a little bit more. And then lastly, the goal I want to hit on is understanding how to leverage your university and alumni network to support those goals. So we'll kind of touch on that, and that will lead you into the breakouts and action planning that you'll do. All right. So, this is such an important premise to me, right? The way that we grow and develop is changing, right? And so before I jump into all of this, I'm going to drop a link. So what I'm doing here, I'm dropping a link to a PowerPoint on Google Slides. And this is the other way that we're going to interact tonight, right? So again, you're off webcam, that's cool. I want you to feel energized in the content, come with the energy that you have. Right? We got a lot of 3s, 4s, and 6s, got finals coming up. But this link, bookmark it. If you're not really like in the headspace to engage on this tonight, I understand. I hope you just stay on and listen. And we're going to basically use this shared slide. So you'll notice that if you go to slide 6, and then slide 7. So we're on slide 7 now. There's a light bulb. Any slide that has a light bulb, that's a place where you can drop your thoughts, your comments. Okay. So again, we're gonna go back to this one. The way that we grow and develop is changing. So what do I mean by that, right? hundreds of years ago, apprenticeship was the model, right? Then there was instructor-based learning, self-paced learning, experiential learning, which a lot of SIGAP is focused on, right? Experiential learning. And then there's demonstrated learning, right? Your TikTok video that teaches you how to cook. If you've never learned how to, right, do the triple decker egg sandwich, right? If you're trying to understand something, right? Like when I want to fix my house, I've got something broken, right? I'm going to YouTube first, right? I'm not calling someone. I'm not, right, taking a class, right, at the local community college, right, to learn how to fix something in my garage, right? I'm going to go on YouTube. And it's just so fascinating watching how learning has changed. And this is something I think a lot about because I'm trying to figure out where's the future of education going so that I can better prepare my students. Cohort-based learning and social learning, I think, are really interesting things. And again, a lot of tonight, right, we're going to model a little bit of that social learning, right? So really quick, really interested to have everyone just jump in, right? Slide 7. What are some ways that you learn best, right? Think about yourself, think about your chapter, right? Of these different models. So I'm going to leave it on this slide. If you're in the browser, right, I want to see some different crowdsource ideas. What are some ways that you learn? Experiences, hands-on. Love it. Visual learning. I'm just going to move my screen share over. We can just dive in like this. I love this, right? Step-by-step tutorials, repetition. It's quite a mix, right? I love this. This is so helpful. Again, I think there's something so powerful about seeing where the commonalities are for each of you across your chapters as well. I think one of the biggest shifts that education has not kept up with is step-by-step tutorials, right? Wouldn't it be nice if there was the step-by-step guide on XYZ, right? The step-by-step guide on networking, the step-by-step guide on how to grow your career professionally, right? And those are the things that we should start building together today, right? Reading the last one, a mentor understands that steadily working towards a goal. Man, that's such a great one. Thanks for sharing. Whoever shared that last one, that's such a great one. All right, we're gonna go to the next slide, right? So here's kind of my premise, right? That what the world expects of you is it's sort of changing, but it's not, right? In my role, I spend a lot of time talking to employers, hearing about what do companies look for, right? Is that changing? And especially with this pandemic, we've asked that question, what's changed? What hasn't changed? What are you missing from your new hires that just graduated in 2020 into the pandemic? And what was really fascinating is that the soft skills, right, that are so critical really haven't changed. It's how they're applied, how they're used that has become even more important, right? Especially when you may not have that face-to-face interaction where communication might be over Slack, over Teams, and not even in a hallway conversation, right? So what I've given you all here is what I think is an incredible checklist. That's why I've made it a checklist for you to go back and think about how are your membership development opportunities, activities, experiences helping your members develop in these ways, right? You can go crazy, take this, turn it into a scorecard, right? Make it a survey. Ask your members, hey, how confident do you feel about your ability to work with different people? How confident do you feel about your ability to solve problems, right? That kind of survey could give you some benchmark results about what the current state of your chapter, right, membership is and where they're at, right? This is a really effective way to just get inventory, right? So what I'm teaching you all is this approach. Some of you are like, I get it. We already do this. That's great. This is new to you, right? What I want you to put in the chat is just a yes, right? Exclamation points, right? As many as you want. But in the Zoom chat, I'd love to, again, if this is like really resonating, you're like, this is something I'm really excited about, to just have, right, a list of things that we should be working towards. All right, so if you think about these soft skills lists, some of these are not, none of this is like rocket science, right? The one that I think is really valuable, right, in a leadership role on campus, right, that you get a lot of is you solve a lot of problems, right? You have constraints, whether it's budget constraints, You've got campus constraints, or there's other, event conflict, things like that. So you're managing through project management. Prioritization, how do you decide what event to do, right? How do you not prevent burnout? Handling ambiguity, and there's a lot of that, right? So again, I think even just within a chapter, there are so many opportunities for members to develop these skills, whether it's within the chapter, right, or across campus and things in volunteerism, for example. I'm going to leave this one here. We're not going to spend too much time on this one, just because I think, again, I want to preserve energy. I want to keep us going. But if the only constant is change, it would be really great to get some thoughts on how do you keep up, right? If the only constant is change, then like, will these soft skills change, right? Daniel's list here may not be relevant in 3 months, right? If the only constant is change, which we know is true, right? No company that's going to survive is going back to normal, right? When the vaccine distribution or whatever, right, this pandemic ends, right? There's not going to be that, right? So any company that thinks they're just going to go back to normal is going to fail, right? And the cycle of change, right, might have been in the past, right, annually or quarterly, right? Tech companies, they move a lot more agilely. So maybe it's sprints, right? Multiple sprints, 3 sprints in a given quarter. I mean, even just look at, for example, an iPhone, right? And how long it takes for an iPhone to get developed. It's about a year, right? For the new iPhone to come out, right? And Xbox, how much time does it take for development, right? For the new Xbox, the new PlayStation to come out. And those timelines are decreasing and decreasing because consumer demand is driving that, right? So this is really, I think, the premise for me around professional development. And I think if there was one thing you could take away from tonight, it's this. The only way to thrive in change is to be constantly growing. Really curious, right? How many of you are familiar with growth mindset? If you've heard growth mindset before, if that's something you're familiar with, thank you for raising your hand, Austin. Drop it in chat, right? Yes. Just put a Y or a yes. If something that resonates with you, thank you, Connor. For those of you who aren't familiar with growth mindset, Carol Dweck, and there's a bonus video here for you if you want to watch it, YouTube link. She's talking about this idea, this concept of growth mindset. It's so fascinating. It's this idea that you either have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, and people with a growth mindset are way more successful because when they look at like criticism, they don't see it as criticism that stops them. They see it as feedback, right? When they don't know something, they don't just say, I don't know. Right? They say, let me find out. Right? Essentially, these are buzzwords that if you're in an internship are great, right? Instead of saying to your supervisor, oh, we have a problem. No, we have an opportunity, right? COVID is this massive problem. No, COVID creates opportunities, right? And so growth mindset is honestly, in my mind, the only way to stay sane, right? As your chapter has gone through so many things, and I don't even know, right? There's, depending on your university setting, you might have been greatly impacted. You might have been kind of impacted. You might have just been like, I don't even know why. Some of my members, right? Some of my brothers don't even know why they're in a fraternity right now. I don't know the spectrum of experiences you're going through, but if you view only the constraints and you only view the blockers, then the chapter is not going to evolve, right? The chapter is not going to grow to a place where it's going to thrive. So this is, to me, like you could just end tonight with just this, right? Growth mindset. If you're not familiar with it, you should. Again, bonus reading, Adam Grant, big fan of his, just came out with a book. It's called Think Again. And it's such an important book. I mean, and it's so important to me because, again, if I think about why I joined SIGEP because it offered something different. And if you look at the history of Sigma Phi Epsilon and the development of the Balanced Man program, right, it all comes back to this. We were the first fraternity to say, let's do something crazy. Let's do something different. Let's get rid of pledgeship, right? Let's get rid of hazing, right? Let's be the first fraternity to think differently about something, right? And lead forward, right? And so it is literally in the ethos of our fraternity to have a growth mindset, right? And look where it's gotten us, right? Largest fraternity in America, right? XYZ, right? And it is up to all of you to continue unlocking that and showing every college campus, every university that SIGEP can continue to thrive, right, in a university setting. Boom, right? I'm gonna just pause, right? Like that's really meaningful to me, right? And I hope that resonates with each of you to some extent. All right, so we're gonna shift, right? How can your members grow over 4 years? right? And I know we're hitting up on the 30-minute mark, so I'm going to go quickly, right? Hopefully, as you think about that checklist here, you can ask yourself the question, how do I want to align? Do I want to align by challenges, right? If you were going to do that, right, here's my suggested framework as a former VP of MD, right? I would look at Sigma as more individual growth, right? Look at Phi as the group growing together, Epsilon as a chapter growing together, and Brother Mentor is how does a community, whether it's a local community or your campus community, grow together, right? So the way that you go through and assess, right, skills and growth areas for development should be aligned to that. If you want to look at growth from a skill gap, right, you might focus on financial literacy or storytelling, marketing skills, social media skills, right? Content creation. Creator is the new, right, I think, way of entrepreneurship. If it's critical thinking, right, maybe there's a faculty member, right, that you might choose to bring in. And again, lastly, if you're really thinking about it more from shared interests, right, I always like to align back to sound mind, sound body, right? Is it around mental well-being? Is it around health and nutrition? Is it cooking classes, right? What are the things that you're going to do to upskill your members? I'm going to kind of close with this, right? The way that we connect is drastically changing. If you haven't heard of Clubhouse, right, it's an audio only platform. It's a social media platform. It's kind of like the new Twitter, if you will. It's different though. They just raised $4 billion, right? They've had incredible celebrities join. It's iOS only, Android's coming in May. But why is something like this, and why do I pay attention to this stuff, right? Here's an example, right? So these are screenshots from my phone of rooms, right, where people are talking on Clubhouse. There's literally rooms where random strangers who are experts, recruiters working at some of the top companies you and your members may want to go work at one day, who host rooms to do practice mock interviews with strangers, right? That is just such an incredible example of social learning, right, and social development. And again, is Clubhouse the thing? I don't know, right? There are audio platforms, growing by the day. Every single company is about to launch their own version, right? LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, they're all launching their own versions of Clubhouse. But my point is, there's these communities that don't require you to be a member of anything, don't require you to have gone to a prestigious university, right? The unlocking of knowledge and resources is incredible, right? I mean, there's literally, like, this one is just a job board, right? People just put in their profile, they edit their profile with the jobs they're hiring for. You pop in, they look at your bios and they connect with you on LinkedIn, right? You don't even need a resume, right? There's no cover letter, right? It's about where you connect with someone. It's not in person, right? It's global. To me, this is so amazing. Side note, right? I'm co-lead, co-host, co-admin for the SIGEP club on Clubhouse. We are very, very small, right? This is my first attempt of, really trying to get people to join it. So if you're on Clubhouse, just search for SIGEP, and I'll make sure that you get added. Once we get some good numbers there, right? I'm thinking it'd be really cool to be running a SIGEP room during conclave for members, right? Either who can't attend in person or who are there in person, to just jump into these audio rooms and connect, right? And again, right, it's all about how do we change the way that we connect. Lastly, again, as I mentioned, you all have this link. Please bookmark it, save it. I think there's such a great opportunity for you all to share resources, and I'll be reviewing this. I'll probably wait till next weekend or even this weekend, and I'll take a look at everything that you all choose to capture in here, and I'll add some comments, I'll add notes. I think this is a great way for us to continue to interact as a crowd, as a group. And again, Ben, real quick time check. How am I on time?
Yeah, if you wrap up in the next 2 minutes, we'll do 5 minutes of questions.
Love it. So I think I'll just really wrap up with this, right? I built out enough slides for people to put in their takeaways. I would love for you all to put your name, your chapter, and then, one takeaway. And that can be part of, right, the breakout. It doesn't have to be a separate activity. But again, I would love to be able to come back to this weekend or next week and be able to see, right, what are the things that you all took away? How can we continue to, right, expand on this? Right? Because the conversation only starts here and it keeps going. So with that, we'd love to kind of just jump into some questions. Curious to see what's resonating, what has resonated.
Daniel, I had a question. How do you work with people that have a fixed mindset? Like, oftentimes, like, I want to do new stuff on EC, and a lot of the guys are like, it's just going to take a lot of work, and I don't know, it's not worth it, or things like that. Like how do you get them to want to work with you or see the value in it?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Thanks, Thomas. That is actually not just a challenge that you would face right now, right? And there's no right or wrong answer. There's different approaches, but you're going to learn over time what works for you and your style. There's actually a different book that I'm going to recommend for this. There's a woman named Frances Fry. I'm going to drop her name in chat. She's a professor at Harvard, right? HBS, worked for Uber for some time. And in her book, she talks about leadership from the angle of trust, right? So Thomas, part of the problem with someone with fixed mindset is they don't trust you, right? And your ideas, right? They have a bias that their ideas are better, that the traditional way of doing things is better, right? And that there's no fault. I mean, the whole concept of higher education is to preserve traditions, right? It's kind of like innovation and tradition. They have a hard time getting along. And what Francis offers is an approach of how do you figure out if someone doesn't trust you, is it because they don't trust you that you're authentic, that you have the same shared goals in mind, right? So that's a good one is like, okay, do we have the same goals in mind, right? My goal as VP of MD is to do XYZ. Your goal as VP of recruitment is to do XYZ, right? Or ABC, right? Can we find common ground? Because if we can, then we can start a conversation. If we can't, it's really hard. We're going to butt heads. I remember butting heads with my VP of programming, right, at times, because all his programming was social, right? And I was like, we need more of it. That's right, professional development, right? And that was tough, right? I was a junior. Like, how do you negotiate and navigate those kinds of conversations? The other part of what Francis talks about is this trust triangle. So there's this piece around authenticity, there's a piece around empathy, and there's a part around logic. And I think a lot of times we try to approach logic from certain directions, and she's just got incredible prescriptive ways to diagnose what are your challenges and how can you get better at it, right? Her book would be an amazing, right, book club book, right? And she hosts office hours every Tuesdays and Thursdays on Clubhouse. So you can actually get on Clubhouse and ask her questions about these kinds of things, right? Again, so amazing. Wonderful question, Thomas. Thank you so much. The key word you're looking for is advocacy. You can do a lot of research on advocacy and how to be a better advocate. You could have the best idea in the whole world, right? You could be the rocket scientist who has a cure for cancer, but if you can't convince other people to look at, right, this part of our DNA, right, then you might as well not have solved, right, the cure for cancer, right? Because if you can't communicate that, if you can't get that advocacy for someone to believe you, to follow you, it doesn't matter, right? Your idea is just, right? Awesome. Other questions? Connor, you got a question. From your experience, what's an effective strategy to give younger members structure when trying to get them more involved? You see a lot of potential in them. Oh, that's such a great one. I'm trying to think of a way to quickly answer this one. I think there's something inherent in this, which is this idea that they thrive on the same structure that you do, right? That might not be true, right? So I would actually start with understanding for each individual person what is the best way, right? What motivates them? What helps them see their potential, right? And that might just be as simple as a 10-minute, chat, right? But I think that's going to actually help you set broader strategy if you really understand the individual needs, right? Because otherwise, if you just assume, then you may hit the mark or you may completely miss it. Another way to kind of manage this, right, strategically is small sprints, pilot, right? Try a structure, right, with a small group of high potentials and then move forward. The key word here is high potential. There's literally in leadership development in corporate America, this idea of a high potential, right? I know who my high potentials are on my team. When I'm recruiting and looking for more people to join my team, I know who the high potential people are, right? There's one high potential person I followed for 3 years before I was able to convince them, right? Where they were ready to make a move, I had an opening on my team and I got them, right? Talk about like, that's a really long recruiting process, right? But high potentials are amazing. And when you find them, you stick with them. But if you're looking for more research on that content on how to do that, there's a lot of research available on high potentials and how to identify them. All right, what is the best way to grow your alumni chat network? How to affect? Wow, that's a really good question, Charlie. I'm gonna actually table parking lot that one. Ben, I think that's probably a good one to follow up on. If I were to jump in on just one small thing you could do is it's LinkedIn, right? Most of your millennial alumni are on LinkedIn, right? And if they're not, they're missing out, right? And maybe that's also a way to grow that base. But I would say LinkedIn is a really great way to help you, especially if you're not getting, right, so the resources, the access from your university, right, records.
Well, Daniel, I'd also say, just since you're here, we talked yesterday, you told me that career coaching wasn't necessarily a way in which you wanted to give your time to SIGEP, but doing this tonight was a way that you wanted to give your time to SIGEP. And so it's knowing that your alumni want to give back, but there are certain ways in which they want to give back. And so you can ask that question and then make sure that you have very specific opportunities for them to do it. Because we're thankful to have you here, and it's only because we asked.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I would say, if you look at some of the most valuable alumni who have insights for you at your stage, right, as a junior, as a sophomore, it's the alum who's been out 5 to 10 years. And the natural problem, or not problem, right, opportunity, right, growth mindset, natural opportunity for those individuals is where's their focus, where's their energy? It's usually not with the chapter, right? It's with their career or it's with their family. And so being creative about what the asks are, absolutely. One way I got creative with the Texas Alpha chapter recently was, I don't feel comfortable, safe going to the chapter house yet. Right. And I've got little kids. So to drive, to campus and do a chapter meeting session at 6 p.m., that's dinner time, bedtime, right? Bath time. And so we got creative. I worked with the membership development committee. And for my kind of, every semesterly presentation, I recorded it, right? He surveyed the members, got questions ahead of time. I had like 30 questions and I just, for 30 minutes, went through every single question, right? Recorded it, saved it as a YouTube video, sent it over to him. They played it at chapter. And then for those who couldn't make it a chapter, right, equity of access, whoever needed it could watch it, right? And I even timestamped it to the question. So you could just click on the timestamp, go to the question you needed, right? That was just a creative way, right, to help someone who may be more time constrained, but is able to still give back, right, and wants to give back.